boring machines that are supposed to be making sure the Metro Tunnel gets done in time for 2025 are no longer operating at the moment. Workers told by the company to walk off the job. So what's going on? Joining me now is Tom Minnear, State Political Editor for the Herald Sun, who's been following this one closely. Tom, thanks for your time. It's such a certain stalemate, apparently, that we're already hearing it's going to be weeks before the workers get back to it, and they're going to do some training instead of working. What on earth's going on?
Yeah, it's a pretty strange time at the moment. I mean, this project hasn't been going all that long. The tunnel boring machines have both dug sort of about 200 to 500 metres out of a couple of twin tunnels that are 9 kilometres long. And all of a sudden yesterday, workers working on the boring machines were told, stop work, you're going to do a couple of weeks of training, and then they'll probably go on Christmas holidays by the sounds of it. It's a real standoff, as you said. So the consortium building the project has had all sorts of issues, that they claim around cost overruns and issues with the design of the project maybe changing slightly and increasing their costs. They're pushing pretty hard on the state government to try and recoup some of those costs, but the government isn't really buying it. And that's why we saw this happen yesterday. And now it looks like work's not going to happen for a few weeks, and it's unclear at the moment really how that stalemate's going to end.
So it's nothing to do with the union, it's the consortium versus the government. But this seems bizarre that you've got a huge contract, a massive project for Melbourne, and yet somehow the contract isn't clear enough about who should pay for what in terms of cost overruns or whatever else is happening.
Yeah, and that's kind of probably the most confusing thing about this whole situation is that obviously the consortium is doing the best they can to put the pressure on the government, and Premier Daniel Andrews was out this morning saying this is all a tactic, they just want more money from us. But no one's really clear at this stage what the issues are that the contractor is worried about that's forced costs up. We're hearing speculation that there could be as much as a $3 billion overrun, which is obviously a huge figure on a contract that's only worth $6 billion. But we don't really know yet exactly what the problems are that they've found, but obviously they deem them to be significant enough. If they want to stop work on a project that still has 5 years of work to go, it's a pretty significant move. So, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting kind of month or two as the government tries to get a deal done here, but I think this is probably just a sign of things to come. If this is what's happening this early in the building process, you can only think what's going to happen over the next 5 years.
A 50% runover is pretty special. What are you getting back in terms of responses from the government or the consortium saying, what is the issue? Because everything I read seems to be a case of a bit of a lack of transparency on top of this.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an issue. I think, contractual obligations that, as you would know, seem to get in the way when you'd like a transparent answer. The government's view is that there's a contract, there's a 2025 deadline, and that's that. They expect the project to be delivered. Clearly, the consortium's not happy with elements of it, but they're also, even though this is, obviously a public tactic to try and, ramp up the pressure, they're also not really coming forward on the problems they're finding. A mediator was appointed a couple of months ago to try and work through these issues, and obviously, I think the idea was that they could be nutted out behind closed doors, but to this point, that obviously hasn't gone well if you've got work now completely stopping and the TBMs just sitting in the ground. So, that debate, I think, will keep going on for the next few weeks, if not longer.
Yeah, oh well, everything makes someone happy. The workers, I'm sure, are, maybe training hard. If this is coming as well, Tom, from a lack of resources and even workers or skilled workers, that's the other concern. We're supposed to have this increased infrastructure program rolling out. What does it say for other projects that haven't even begun yet?
Yeah, exactly. We've got the North East Link, which will be the biggest road project in Australia's history, starting in the next year or so. That's, a $16 billion project. And, so far that's going to plan. That the design work has been done. But, we've seen multiple big projects in the last few months in Victoria that have had, overruns of hundreds of millions of dollars. And, Metro's having issues. The Westgate Tunnel, which is a major road project in Victoria, it's sort of 6 months delayed because of issues with soil contamination. And like you mentioned, material costs, labour costs are all massive problems at the moment. So, as much as the state government and I think the federal government are doing a good job working together on infrastructure projects in Victoria, and it is good for the economy, that the problem's going to be that the more you keep building and the faster you want to go, the more expensive things get. And at some point, that's going to become a real issue when, budgets are getting tighter, when the economy isn't performing as well as they'd like to.
Well, there you go, kids. If you've just finished school and studying, get out there, do a trade. There'll be a well-paid job, I reckon. On the Westgate Tunnel as well, Tom, so that's what the government said. It's a soil thing, the reason for the delay there. Does that check out?
Yeah, so there's been issues with a chemical called PFAS, which you've probably heard about on defence sites around the country. It was a big issue at the CFA Fiskville training base years ago. So levels of that have been found around the Westgate Tunnel work sites. The difficulty here is that PFAS is kind of found everywhere, and in a lot of circumstances it's not that toxic, but I think the standards around that aren't that clear at the moment, and the unions, particularly on the Westgate Tunnel site, are very keen to make sure that's all dealt with. And I think the procedures aren't that clear for where all that soil can be taken, what can be done with it to clean it up. And it's basically meant that the tunnel boring machines were ready to go there sort of 6 months ago. They were supposed to have done months of digging by now, and at this stage they won't even start till February. And that project's supposed to be finished in 2022, so the timelines there are much tougher as well. So that's an even more pressing issue probably for the state government.